In solo leveling, after the key to the Kartanon Temple finally had its timer reduced to 0, Drippy Woo left to go find out the source of his power once and for all. At his sister Gina's school after the orc attack, the bowl-cut MF is back at the site since another gate had spawned at the school back-to-back. A mysterious person started walking towards the gate, so the bowl-cut MF told him that he couldn't enter here, stopping him in his tracks. The mysterious person turned out to be none other than the one and only Sung Jin-Woo, asking how long had it been since the gate appeared. Bowl-cut responds, saying that it had been 3 days, which infuriated Drip Woo since the key only said that after the timer had finished it would reveal the location, but not that it would spawn at that exact time as well. Drizzy Woo tells Bowl-cut to call back the hunters that went in since they're in grave danger, and if they don't get out soon, they will die. Bowl-cut is confused, since the gate is only C rank, asking what he meant by them dying. Jin-Woo steps into the gate saying he would bring the assault squad back because there's no time to explain. Inside the dungeon, the hunters question why the door to the boss room didn't open. Not even magic could move it. It's a trap, Drip Woo stated, scaring the shit out of the other hunters. Who are you? They question. I'm a survivor of a double dungeon, Drip Woo stated. The hunters are still skeptical, but someone recognizes him as Hunter Sung Jin-Woo, the S-rank Sung Jin-Woo. Drip Woo states how this was an extremely dangerous place, telling them to get their asses out because he would take it from here. As he tries to open the door, he questions as to why it didn't open. The system states how this was the gate to the Kartanon Temple, asking him to insert the key. Drip Woo whips out the key, shocking the hunters watching as to how he was able to open the gate since it didn't budge at all when they tried. The leader of the party states how he didn't have the right to tell them to leave because their unknown guild was the one who bought the raid permit, which incited the other hunters into shouting, saying that he can't order them around just because he's an S-rank. Drip Woo responds, saying he won't stop them. If they really want to die, let them type shift. The MF walks inside the gate like he bout to do something, but the system states how a being without the key had entered, denying his access as a huge stone knight swings his sword towards the hunter. Drippy Woo grabs the hunter's armor, pulling him back before the knight could slice him open like a watermelon. Having missed his chance, the knight looks towards them with a murderous stare. Riz-Woo warns them that all of the monsters inside the dungeon were that strong, asking if they really wanted to enter after seeing how dangerous it really was. He said to listen well, telling them to leave the dungeon and contact the Hunter Association, and tell them that a double dungeon has appeared. As the system states how the one with the key had entered the dungeon, the gate's doors slam shut, leaving the hunters speechless. Inside the dungeon, the torches light up, the place looking exactly the same as the first time he had came here. The angel statue with the scripture at hand, and the king's statue sitting in his throne. It all began here. As Jin-Woo walks towards the statues, he says, "I've returned." He states how this time will be different while reminiscing of the last time he was here. "I can clearly feel it through my bones. These statues aren't monsters, nor are they living beings. They're merely puppets of someone, something, and there's only one thing that emits magic in this room. So it was you," he states while looking at the direction of a statue while tapping the floor to get a reaction out of it. Drippy Woo asks why it won't say anything, and why it wouldn't answer his question. But he wasn't talking to the king's statue like we would have thought. He was staring at the angel statue as it grins menacingly as it says, "At last you have arrived." Santa Claus finally arrives in Japan as reporters swarm him trying to take pictures. A reporter asks him how he planned on blocking the gate. Orloff responds saying he'd use the same strat he uses all the time, stating that he would draw a magic circle around the gate and pour mana into it. Whatever's inside wouldn't be able to get out. The reporters ask if he's really capable of blocking an S-rank gate by himself. He responds saying that it's impossible for him to sustain the gate on his own, but his magic circle can draw mana from its surroundings. So if a bunch of mana crystals are set up around Tokyo, the magic circle would absorb their mana, stating that it was basically like starting a car, and once the barrier is up, it would transform into a sturdy wall by sucking the mana around it. This MF really gonna give them a smirk saying that he was going to save their lives, so they better make sure they remember that. The Korean Hunter Association chairman watches the live stream as he says that he's not sure if he's capable of blocking an S-rank gate, but what he's sure of is what would happen if he fails, and asks what Drippy Woo is up to these days. Jin-Chul responds saying that he's currently raiding gates in Seoul, and that the Ah-Jin Guild had requested entry permits, and since the gates are in White Tiger, Hunter, and Fiend Guild territory, there could be some friction between them. The chairman smiles, saying how amusing it is while thinking of a one-man guild that's as strong as a major guild. Jin-Chul says how he's getting a call, and if he could be excused, the chairman says to go ahead since he has an appointment and should get going anyways. Woo Jin-Chul speaking. Bolcut says that they've received a report and that he should check out the area, asking if he remembered the school that was recently attacked by orcs, though it doesn't seem like anything serious had happened yet. But a gate had spawned in the schoolyard, and a double dungeon was discovered inside. Jin-Chul gets shocked at this information, but Bolcut states how there's one more piece of information. Inside the gate, the one and only, the Riz Master, Sung Jin-Woo, has entered the double dungeon. The scripture containing the rules of God suddenly starts to crack. As the angel statue breaks it to absolute pieces, he says, "I see you have finally made it this far." Unimpressed, Drip Woo says how the so-called commandments never meant anything after all. The angel statue grins, saying that they did mean something once, but they are not important anymore. "Are you the one who called me here?" he questions. The statue smiles, saying it was indeed him that called him here. Jin-Woo asked if he was a monster, but the statue said he's asking all the wrong questions, since instead of asking who he is, he should be asking who his true self is. The Stone Knights awaken as he said this would be his final test, and if he's still standing at the end of it, he will tell him everything. That will be his reward to him. Drip Woo gets ready for battle, calling for his shadow soldiers, but the angel says how that won't do since no cheating is allowed. He's the only one he wishes to assess. He doesn't give a flying fuck about his servant's abilities, sealing most of the perks he received from the system. "So this is how it's gonna be, huh?" Jin-Woo states, disappointed by the fact that all the cards in his hands ended up being useless. A Stone Knight suddenly rushes towards Drip Woo. Though he can't use most of his abilities, he can still use his inventory. Since that's the case, he will just beat the fuck out of everyone with absolute brute strength. As the Knight's sword is about to make impact with Drip Woo, he manages to catch it with a single arm, while raising his other hand, breaking the sword in half like a piece of cardboard. With the broken sword, he suddenly throws it, hitting the MF right in the face between the gaps of his armor. As it tries to remove the sword from its cranium, Jin-Woo kicks the sword deep in its skull before it could even pull it out. As another knight rushes towards Rizzy Woo, he prepares to counterattack, slicing the axe in half like it was butter as he leaps into the air, cleaving the knight's skull with his daggers. He notices something coming straight at him in the distance. A stone archer shot an arrow towards him with immense speed. But this is no problem for Rizzy Woo, as he splits the arrow in half with ease, jumping off the ground, kicking the other half of the arrow, returning it back to the sender, destroying its head completely. The more he fights, the more excited he gets, stating that he's been waiting for this moment. No, he's been living for this moment. The angel statue commends him for achieving this much in the body of a human, stating that he's truly impressed by his growth. As the fight continues, Jin-Woo states how in the first time he came here, the statues looked like they were teleporting, but now he can see their movements clearly. Each and every one of them may be hella strong, but he's confident that he can beat them. The angel statue states how he's impressed by his growth, but it's too early for the test to end. Suddenly, the ground starts rumbling, surprising Drip Woo, who was concentrated in the fight. A huge behemoth of a statue starts standing up, stomping on the ground with immense strength. The statue stands tall, making the other statues look like mere ants, as it creepily grins like the first time we saw it. The angel statue smiles, saying it's now time to worship God. During the meeting between both the Japanese and Korean Hunter Association chairmans, Chairman Matsumoto slides a document stating that it was a contract that meant they would give up the rights to all of the essence stones on Jeju Island, which surprised Chairman Gunhee into asking why. Matsumoto responded saying it was because they would like to hire the one and only Drippy Woo. The translator tells him what he just said, making him laugh, saying Rizzy Woo isn't affiliated with the Hunters Association. Matsumoto responds saying that he's well aware, saying that they can't get in touch with him without the help from the Korean Hunter Association. He's not asking for him to put in a good word for them, but is only asking for a chance to negotiate with him. The chairman is surprised that they would pay such a huge sum of money just for a chance to talk to him, saying it wasn't a bad offer. As the chairman thinks deeply, while putting the contract down, saying he would like to discuss this matter without interpreters, which shocked Matsumoto, who didn't know he spoke Japanese. The chairman says how his father ran a small business in Japan when he was young, telling him if this is one of his tricks, he suggests for him to stop now. Matsumoto asked what he meant by that, but the chairman says he's heard that the Blade Guild cut ties with him, making him jump out his seat, asking how he knew that. The chairman says it was pretty obvious, considering that the Blade Guild rejected funding from the association and only accepted government subsidies. The Blades Guild was once at the beck and call of the Japanese Hunters Association, and because of Goto Ryujin, he was able to rally all S ranks when they were needed, but not anymore, stating that there's probably a power struggle now that the Blades Guild fell apart and the association failed to control the situation, stating that if the S-ranked gate isn't blocked off, he'd have to take all of the responsibility for it. As the chairman pulls out a camera saying that Goto Ryujin was the hunter who represented Japan, so his death, the unmanaged conflicts between the guilds, and the sacrifices that were made because of his evil plots would all be falling on his shoulders. Matsumoto asked what this was, and the chairman responded saying that it was a camera connected to his receiver, saying that it belonged to Goto's team, asking if he really thought he wouldn't find out what he did. The chairman says how this is hardly the time for him to be negotiating with him right now, telling him that if the information became public, the whole population of Japan would have to deal with the consequences of his schemes, crushing the camera while smashing the table to pieces, stating how he's not as cold-hearted to do something like that, since he wouldn't want the entirety of Asia to be plunged into chaos because of one man's ploy, saying he'd have to thank Rizzy Woo for letting this slide. After Drippy Woo sliced the head of a knight's body, he states how they just keep coming after him relentlessly, no matter how many he destroys. He turns around to see that the god's statue started charging up its attack, and since it was too late to dodge it, he activates the skill Commander's Touch, lifting the stone knights, blocking the god statue's insanely powerful laser beam attack as it grins while shooting it. The attack being so strong that it raises his skill to its final form, the Commander's Authority. Though the shield made of statues melted due to the attack, Drippy Woo managed to dodge it, stepping to the side, thinking that if he wants to win this, he'll have to get rid of that guy first, stomping as the ground gets crushed as he leaps towards the behemoth with immeasurable speed. The statue isn't gonna let this slide, raising its feet, then stomping on the ground, completely destroying everything around him. The statue smiles, thinking that it finally got rid of the annoying ant, but that couldn't be further from the truth as a flashing light could be seen below him. Jin-Woo comes flying out of the smoke straight for the statue, making it charge its beam attack once more. Jin-Woo thinks if he combines his speed with his Dominator's Authority skill, he'd be able to go straight for his blind spot, attaching his skill to its shoulder, and like Spider-Man, he flings himself towards it, dodging the statue's laser beam. Jin-Woo is relieved that it had worked, saying that the upgrade made a huge difference since it worked on a target as large as this. Riz-Woo manages to land on its shoulder, activating his skill, Mutilation, slashing its face with immense speed, though this shocked Rizzy-Woo since it didn't work, even though the Demon King's dagger could slice through anything, but it only left a scratch on the statue's face. But if he can't slice through it, he'll just aim for a crevice, landing on its face, clenching his fist, charging his attack, and punching the living shit out of it with pure strength. The angel statue states how he never would have thought he'd use that kind of attack against one of his creations, as Jin-Woo charges up his attack again, punching it right in the same spot as before. As he charges his attack once more, he says, "I'll show you what it means to be level 103, punching it in the motherfucking face again." Oh, he's not grinning no more as he falls to the ground doing the Yamcha pose, creating a huge crater in the space. He lands on the floor, making the stone knights around him target him instantly. He activates his skill, Dominator's Authority, plunging the statues into the ground, making them unable to move a single inch. As the dust settles, Jin-Woo clenches his fist, saying how thanks to this battle, he's grown even more powerful than before. Impressive, the angel statue says, as he descends from the sky, clapping for Drizzy Woo. He tells the angel that he better keep his promise. The angel's mask starts crumbling while he laughs, saying that the test isn't over yet since he is still here, making Jin-Woo nervous since he just received an urgent quest from the system. I am your final test, the statue said, as the system states that if he doesn't defeat the enemy in 10 minutes, his heart will stop beating. Jin-Woo asked who the hell he was. He responds with the system saying that he told him that it was a pretty silly question, but he'll give him the answer anyways as he grins extensively. I am the architect of the system, the angel states while speaking with both his mouth and the system panel, asking if he's satisfied with his answer. Hit that follow thing.